Welcome back to Action Toon Bros, episode 72. Joined, as always, by my co-host, Ben Sturgeon.
Howdy, y'all. How you doing?
Hell yeah. We are covering the second to last arc of Young Justice. We are covering the Supertown arc, I guess you would call this one.
Yeah, or the New Gods arc.
Yeah, the New Gods arc, because, they've been ever present for the longest time. There is a lot of shit to cover in this one because there's a lot of story, but then there's a lot of like high concept stuff, just like during the magic and religion arc I wanted to talk about because that episode ended up being long as shit.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff in this part I want to talk about as well. But before that, a little DC news, just like in the general world of comics and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
The comic artist Jenny Isabella. She was responsible for creating Black Lightning, Tigra, Misty Knight, and a ton of other huge Marvel and DC characters. Just came out as trans at the age of 73.
Wait, seriously?
So, yeah. She's
Hell
the
yeah.
inventor of Black Lightning, one of the major characters in this. Tigra, who I know is from Marvel stuff, and then Misty Knight, who just was on a ton of the like Netflix Marvel shows. She has also made a ton of other characters, but I just wanted to shout out her because Black Lightning is ever present and ever important in this whole, like the last season and this one. He's like in the background, but still. Shout out to that just in terms of DC news. But this arc, the New Gods, a lot of Jack Kirby stuff, a lot of Green Lantern stuff, Kryptonians, just very high concept stuff that we have to get into, which I don't think we've really touched on at all up until this point, and a little crossover to a show that I love that's been pretty much forgotten to time. Another one of Greg Weisman, the creator of this show's other series, but we'll get to that when we get to it.
Right.
Are you ready to get to the first episode of this batch?
Let's be honest, I'm not ready for any of this because we'll talk about it later. But yeah,
I know. I like getting the actual descriptions of the episodes and all the like what happened in them's over with, because then we can talk about other stuff for the longest time.
Oh yeah. Well, anyway, yes.
These episodes are all incredibly dense, which is why like. I mean, this one is kind of like a moot point, but before we covered this season, I said, like, okay, we're going to do, like, shorter episodes, quicker summaries, and all that, but then, like, every single episode of this season has been so dense with activities and fucking characters and, like, specific dialogue stuff. Yeah,
let's be honest, though. The reason for that is because Young Justice, especially the Phantom season, a.k.a. Season 4, really hits a lot of heavy topics. A lot of them. So it's kind of hard not to just, like, not talk about them, you know? But you do make a very good point. We should get ready for this first episode.
Yeah, we're covering now episode 18, Beyond the Grip of the Gods.
Starting off
in Dakota City.
Yep, where we see Raquel, who is getting ready.
I literally exclusively refer to her as Rocket in all of my notes.
Yeah, which is fine too. But we see Raquel, getting ready to take Amistad, aka her son, to his father.
Yeah, we see also that he like won't leave without his hat, his behaviors and mannerisms and everything like that. That he has a very severe autism. He won't leave the house without his wool hat. Which also I like to talk about Amistad at the end because it's something else specific I wanted to point out. But
right.
Yeah, he won't leave the house without his wool hat. He is just like really sensitive to everything around him. He starts screaming whenever he has, like, she tries to help him leave without the hat because she's like, we have to go, we're going to be late to meet your father. But he just starts screaming and freaking out. She also offers him the black and white cookies, which he also loves, which I fucking love to death. On the train, they're like sitting next to some old lady, and like he's just like, oh, she smells bad. And she's like, excuse me, young man. He's really sensitive to perfumes. I'm so sorry. And he's like, no, she smells bad. And he's like being really like blunt about everything, all the sensations that are bothering him. When he gets to the father's house, they talk about like how they're going to handle this new, like, moving him to another new school, and Raquel's kind of just like being avoidant with the father about it. We see like she's like, okay, I have a mission. I have to go to Supertown. You have the JLA codes. If something happens, just contact me. But seriously, I gotta go. And he's like, we gotta talk about your son. We see the son when he first comes into the father's house. He, like, taps his hand and like just sits down and starts playing with his toys. And like, he's just very like, it's a very interesting display of like a character like this. You don't really see it
yeah, and like even when like the father I don't think he even has a name, to be honest. I think
he does, and he was also he was around like mentioned in the comics and stuff like in the Young Justice comic, or the Young Justice specific comics and stuff too.
But yeah, either way, like he even brings up like terms like IEP and stuff, and you know, Raquel is like kind of in denial of the whole thing. Like, you know, it's just, she's just like, and even when he's like, look, we're gonna have to. She's just, you know, like, no, like it's kind of. The child's autism is kind of severe, and she is definitely like, I don't want to deal with this. Yeah, it's kind of hurtful, not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see like her struggling with this, but like it's an interesting thing for someone to have to struggle with. We'll talk about more of that at the end, of course.
Right.
He says that he needs to go to a special school. She doesn't have the time to deal with this because she has a literal interplanetary issue, and then that's when we hit the credits. Then we cut to Jay Garrick, the original Flash, Rocket, and Forager arriving at New Genesis. They are talking about how they are going to a summit between the Justice League, the Green Lanterns, and the New Gods of this planet. As they arrive, they're contacted by Orion. He contacts them through the Mother Box and says, follow the light ray to Supertown. As they arrive... Oh, yeah.
And they do. And
they arrive.
You know, right when they get there, they get introduced to, you know, the High Father, which I don't remember any of these guys' names.
I just refer to him as the High Father whenever I refer to him.
Okay, good. I do too. But yeah, we get, you know, introduced to the High Father, the High Mother, Light Ray, and of course Orion, who is also known as the Dog of War.
The Dog of War, and that's when Ruckus first has her little like Dog of War. What the hell? Then we cut to see a shipment of dried used crystals are arriving in some kind of hangar or what do they call it, like a warehouse. And they're kind of like, okay, well, that's good. And we see one of them begin to open on its own as we see a purple forager or like some kind of bug. They're just called bug, I guess.
Yeah, unfortunately in New Genesis, they're all known as bugs.
Yeah. Is exploring the base and finds a still active crystal. This is when we cut back to Orion. He's being very formal and very, like, you know, direct with all of his speaking to them. And he also has a mother box. But as they're flying on his, like, little flying harness, the mother box kind of reacts to Rocket's tech, which is from, I believe it's called the Conclave, where Icon and all them are from. Yeah.
Right.
It kind of reacts to her technology, and he's like, mother box is not like your thing, could you please get rid of it? And she's like, no. And he's just like, he just goes back to being very stoic and not talkative, and she kind of continues to eye him like, what the hell's with this guy?
Yeah, right. And then of course the mother box also pings again because we find out that the forager bug who took, it wasn't a crystal, it was a weird looking cell thing, like takes it and actually gets caught. So Orion's like, I see, this is odd. Someone is stealing from the warehouse.
Yeah, and there's a thief.
It's just like very extremely stoic, like unfazed at all, like no emotion whatsoever. At least on the surface, it looks like that.
Yeah. As we cut to Apocalypse and the Hunger Dogs, we see some guy named Gragan kind of trying to build them up to rebel against Darkseid. Come on, my Hunger Dogs, we can rise up against the New Gods. So they're everyone else is kind of ignoring him.
Yeah. Even the bartender's just like, dude, you're gonna get us killed. Sit down, shut up, and get the hell out of here.
Yeah, shut the hell up, dude. You're gonna cause trouble. Back with New Genesis, Rocket wants to help, but Orion says it is against protocol to do that. And then like his mother's kind of like, Orion, come on. And he's just like, I would like your help, I guess. And he's like, begrudgingly says like, okay, he'll never help. They then follow the bug onto the ground, and it goes like, we follow the bug, and we see him like going underground, going underwater. He's kind of traveling really far. Orion is then. Oh, did they catch the bug with the
No. The bug like does this like landing in the water, and Orion is like very impressed by this. And of course, as he scans with the with the mother box, apparently there's what was it called? Radion particles. So the mother box couldn't actually trace it. So Rocket's like, okay, we're gonna do this the old-fashioned way. Puts her and him around one of her force bubbles and goes underwater, where Orion is just like, get me out now, and starts trying to beat up the bubble. So Rocket's just like, okay, fine, leaves, and Orion like kind of calms down, and she's like,
The mother box
great,
actually calms him down. You see the mother box
yeah,
kind of like
oh
pulses
yeah,
his
like
face and he kind of calms down.
yeah, yeah, right, like that's right. He puts it up to his face, and it like pings a little bit, and then she's like, well, great, the thief got away.
Yeah. Then we cut to Connor. He is still in this weird, crazy zone being chastised and talked down to by Lex, saying, "Who are you? I am the Superboy Project. What is your purpose? To destroy Superman," as he's continuing like being under control of this thing, flying around this weird purpley ghost zone that we still haven't figured out the name of yet, I don't believe.
Right, yeah, like at this point we still, it's the afterlife for all we know.
Yeah. In Super City, where they finally get to, or Super Town, they go over the footage of the other bug, and Forge is like, "Oh, a female bug," and they're like, "How can you tell?" And Forge is like, "Isn't it obvious?"
Right, and of course, like, Orion's just like, huh, well, this bug might be useful. What can you tell us about it? And
oh yeah,
like,
Light Ray's kind of like, "What's this bug doing here?" Kind of like a vague little racist thing against their species, and Forge is saying like, "Forgers, you part of the team," and like,
and Highfather's like, now hold on. He's supposed to help us. It's fine. Yeah. He's supposed to be here. And then, of course, as they're talking about the stolen, we find out that it's the thing is a radion-powered Ruction cell. And the High Mother notices that she's like, wow, this is really old. Like 5,000 to 6,000 years old. So not only is this obsolete, but it's highly dangerous. And of course, Orion's like, we must search near the nest, near the lake for the hive. And Forger's like, oh, no. These markings here, she's of the mountain hive. And of course, friggin' Orion's like, I knew this bug was useful.
Yeah.
Back on Apocalypse, we forgot to mention that Gragan was talked to by some random person who's like,
yeah, she's kind of like, you really want to rebel against them? And he's just like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, we do. Come on, I'll show you where the rebellion is. And so here, back on Apocalypse, takes her to the rebellion, who is then immediately ambushed, and Gragan reveals himself to be Ma'alafa'ak, who then has this one person re-educated, which in Apocalypse means she might as it would have been better if she died.
Yeah, she's going to be tortured mercilessly by Granny Goodness and the gang.
Yep.
We cut back to the female bug as we find out that her name is also
dude,
Forager.
Dude.
Yeah?
Graven appears after he does that. Is like, hey, Ma'alafa'ak, good job. This is the 16th person you've captured. Darkseid wants to talk to you. Uses a father box.
Yeah.
And sorry, don't want to forget that detail for when we go back to Apocalypse.
Oh yeah, that's true.
But back at the Mountain Hive.
Yeah, the bug is revealed to be Forager. She says that they will use this cell to help her people, as it will give them energy and some kind of other uses for it. As they're continuing to fly, Orion continues to not be able to sense her with the mother box. And Jay says, I can search the entire forest, in a real quick time with my super speed. And Light Ray's like, hey, I'll help you. Orion is again, wait a minute, Light Ray, that is against protocol. That is not our procedure. As they're doing this, the female forager says that they, like, you guys know nothing about what's going on. The female forager actually confronts them at one point, right?
Well, yeah. After he's like, we can't do this. We're not allowed to. It's not protocol. They're like, yeah. The Mountain Hive pretty much comes out and is like, hey, yeah, you're right. What do you want? They're like, we're here for the Ruction cell, and they're like, we don't know what that is. Well, what is that? Right, Ruction? What?
Yeah. And we got a quick shot of a white Martian messing with the device. That's out of fucking nowhere.
What? No way. That could have been anyone. That could have been anything, Matt.
Yeah, of course. The cell, yeah, you're right. The cell is dangerous. You guys can't be left alone with it. Forager says, like, hey, Forager says he'll talk to the other Forager. So they begin to talk, and they begin to try to develop some terms on how they're going to deal with this and how they're going to help each other. We see the two larval kids start, like, fucking with the cell as they see, like, oh, we got to get it out of here. It's kind of, like, sparkling and being weird. And so they pick it up and try to start running away with it in the caves. And this is when we got back to Connor in the purple area.
Yeah, in the weird afterlife-y area where he's
the ghost zone.
Yeah, where he's still like jumping around, saving Lois Lane in his old like solar suit, and like doing things that that Superman would do.
Yeah, he's actually dressed as Superman, I believe.
Well, I mean, it's still him, but it's just like him in Superman's position rather than
Yeah,
Superman being
doing all
there.
the stuff. Yeah, working.
And
Yeah, we see
of
that
course,
he's working for Lex.
yeah, and
we
Lex
find
is
out
like,
that he
"Hey,
has, yeah.
you're doing a good job." As I think, who was the doctor guy?
From
With
Cadmus?
oh no, the guy, the guy with the underground.
From like the first season with the
Yeah,
genomes and everything.
yeah, with the genomes.
I don't remember that guy's name.
Yeah, but I know he's there too. Dr. Desmond,
Yeah.
that's his name.
Desmond. Okay.
I had to look through my
Yeah,
notes.
he says. He said Lex says like, yeah, you've killed the Batman and you've destroyed the Watchtower. You're the ultimate Superman and you're the best. And then then he still like, there's one more thing you need to let go of, and he looks down and he sees, is it McGann that he sees her as? Yeah.
Yeah. First you see it's a air quote ghosty or phantom girl.
Phantom
but then
girl, as we know.
as Lex is like, you gotta let her go. You look down a second time and it is McGann.
Yep. Back on New Genesis, the team goes to find the Ruxian cell and they see that the kids and the device are gone. Then we see Ma'alafa'ak talking to Darkseid back on Apocalypse, and he is told that he has one more task to do. You will go with Mantis, and you will take the Kaiser Thrall. And you guys are both going to be subordinates to this man. We see a young black kid in that weird bubble that we've seen following the gang all the way back in the Mars arc.
Right.
He says, yeah, you Mantis and Ma'alafa'ak, you are going to report to him. And they're like, who is this guy? We don't even know who he is. And he says, my name is Lord Zod.
Dun, dun, dun.
Back with the little larval kids, they drop the cell and it shoots a big ass beam destroying a rock. And then they start saying like, yay. And they start like messing with it like they found a gun in the woods.
I love how normal kid they were being, like, oh no, dangerous thing. Oh no, I dropped it. Shoots a beam. Let's do that again.
Yeah. It's very fucking funny. The kids won't give up the device when Orion comes up, and they say like, he's like, give me back the device, and then they kind of like, no, that they accidentally end up knocking his helmet off, and he like starts like freaking out as Rocket bubbles the cell to try to keep it from exploding or harming anyone. Orion then begins to go crazy. He punches the shit out of one of the kids and he starts like freaking out at everybody. So Rocket bubbles him, and it just causes him to go even more berserk. We see his eyes are red, his brows are like really hairy, and he's like just freaking out.
Yeah, as if his eyes are glowing red, like he was from Apocalypse or something.
Yeah, exactly.
And then he starts like beating the shit out of things. And unfortunately, the cell like discharges like heavily, and even Light Ray's like, "Hey, Rocket, stop. Please, get him out of the bubble now. He is literally claustrophobic. You're going to do major damage if you keep him in there." And, she reluctantly gets him out of the bubble, where he goes to start chasing after them in that rage. And then Light Ray just pulls up the mother box as it does the pings. And it just calms Orion down, puts him back to normal, who takes it, lets it ping again, gets his helmet back on, and he's just curtly says that he's sorry, and that's it.
Yep, the Ruxian cell explodes in the barrier that Rocket has. We saw it.
Fortunately, no one was hurt.
Yeah. Then once Orion is back to normal, we cut to Metron is going to take the Ruxian cell to his vault.
Yeah, his interdimensional vault. And
then we see Orion talking to his mother, blaming his behavior on his parentage. He's like, oh, the gift from my parentage. He's really upset. And Rocket says that she feels that like Orion seems like a dangerous monster. She calls him a monster and says that he's lost control. What the hell's wrong with him? And this is when we see Connor again. A weird bearded black guy pops up to him in the ghost area, talks to him saying, hey, are you still seeing hallucinations? That's just the zone madness. That's the zone sickness taking over.
Yeah, zone sickness.
See, I'm real because you're seeing phantoms and stuff like that. I'm real because you've never met me before. And so he says, "Oh, thank you. Okay, so just I'm gonna help you out, okay?" And then we said, "Who are you?" He's like, "My name is Druzad." And then we get a big old
General
Chiron. He
Druzad.
says, "Yeah, General Druzad." And he get a big old panel saying, "The Phantom Zone," which I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure we referred to
what?
it as the Phantom Zone before in
Well,
other earlier parts.
what? No way. We're in the Phantom Zone. Okay, look, any of you who've been watching our show for so long, if you didn't know it was you should have guessed it by now. And if you did guess it by now, well, there's the reveal right here. It's the
Yeah, and also
Phantom
I'm pretty sure,
Zone.
like I said, we probably have referred to it as the Phantom Zone already.
Probably by accident, but then we get to the end credit scene where we're at the Watchtower with Black Lightning and Superman, and
Yeah.
they're
They're
talking
picking new
about they're seeing
candidates
a
for the
bunch,
Justice League.
right,
Yeah, they
yeah.
including Peacemaker, Etrigan, a couple of other people, but then they also mention the other people in the other countries. They say Russia is being very secretive with the heroes that they have, and China has a number of heroes that they're not revealing to us as well, but they're being very secretive. Also, we need to consider off-planet people because there's a lot of intergalactic heroes that could also help our Justice League as well. We need to start expanding our members.
And
So
of course,
yeah, that's
they're talking about going to Atlantis, Themyscira, Geranium City, but they're like, what? We don't know about Markovia. I mean, yeah, they got heroes, but will will Bryon Markov and his Infinitors be trusted? And it's like, and that's where the episode ends.
Yeah. Great bit. Now, so yeah, obviously the first thing we want to talk about is Amistad and this depiction of like severe autism in a young child. I thought was very authentic. I mean, me and you both know people in our lives who have autism, but my two of my nephews have like pretty much this level of severe autism, and like they're twins, and they're both like very difficult to
yeah.
But it's
So
they need a lot of
here's
help.
my question for you
really
here's my question for you, because again, like you just stated, like you and I, we know people who have who have some form of autism, right?
Yeah.
I have never experienced anything like to this level. I only ask because I am unsure, because I've never encountered this before. Is that an act? Is that like a proper representation of this?
I would say, yeah. Like people, I mean, like, yeah. How many like young children have you met with severe autism? Like just like most things with like ADHD or like any kind of autism, stuff like that. People before it was like properly diagnosed in people. Like as you grow up, you would just learn masking techniques and hiding techniques and just like dealing with it in various ways as you would grow up or not. But like how many like young children before they're actually like taught fully how to behave, how their brains operate with that kind of condition. I think this is very, very accurate because, like I said, I have multiple very young people in my life with this, and it's a struggle for the parents. But every single thing can be incredibly difficult for them to kind of handle like this. Like, this is I would think this is a very a very, very authentic depiction of how difficult it would be for like a single mother with an autistic child like this to like have it take care of them and everything like that. So I really was sympathetic to Rocket for this.
Okay, like I noticed that she was going through some hard thing, and I wasn't like discrediting it because I mean she's going through a struggle, but I'm sitting here, I'm like, okay, I think this is autism. Then the father like said, yeah, he got diagnosed with autism. I'm like, okay, I've not seen this extent of it. Sorry, I'm trying to word it. I'm trying to word it.
Of course, no. I would be very curious if the people we know, like, if you showed them this or showed their parents that, like, how they would think, because how authentic it was for them raising the child at that, like, from that point. It could be, yeah. For some, like I said, for my two nephews, I think this was a very, very realistic depiction.
Okay.
I had to watch them for like one afternoon, and it was insane. Like just trying to wrangle them to like sit still for 5 seconds, but also like them, like one of them was freaking out in the house because he had this Minnie Mouse doll that they couldn't find, and they like would not leave the house until they found it, and they were like screaming their heads off and stuff like that. I mean, we found it like eventually like in the basement, which they went and like for like 1 second early in the day, and like having to like wrangle them to watch something on TV or like any kind of thing, just like it can be very, very stressful.
Now here's a follow-up question then.
Yeah.
With certain with certain aspects, are you to say? Okay, hold on a second. Sorry, I
All
don't
right,
know
well,
why my phone. I don't know why my phone decided to.
yeah, I thought that what
Ring.
that rattling thing was.
Yeah, that was my phone call. It's an annoying ringtone for people whose number I don't have. But anyway,
Nice.
so anyway, back to the whole thing. Um, would it be appropriate to say that to some degree that Orion was exhibiting some form of
Oh
this?
yeah, I think that they were very overtly coding Orion as possibly also having some similar thing. They'll go into more detail. Actually, there's a lot more detail on what his situation is going on, but I think like yeah, the way his behavior was, how he reacts, I think it was very obvious that he was being coded as autistic. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Because
But
that's what I thought too. Because with the forms that I'm used to seeing, he seemed to give off like aspects of like a more mild autism at least, or at least he was
yeah,
very good at masking it. So that's why
yeah,
I'm
like I
like,
said, I would love for the people like who we know, just like who like have relatives or who have autism like this to watch something like this and how they feel about the depiction of it. Because obviously there's tons of different forms, and it's literally called on the spectrum of like just many different ways on how like severe or how overt it shows itself or how stuff like that. But I'm
right,
very
yeah,
curious how some people would like take this. But yeah, I wanted to go into Amistad's actual history on the show because Amistad, firstly, Rocket had Amistad when she was 16.
oh
Like she had him
damn,
just after season 1 when she was introduced, like near the end, right before the Justice League was mind controlled in like the last episode.
wait, really? She was 16?
Yeah, she was 16 when she had Amistad,
Holy shit!
and that's even more obvious because like in the season 2 premiere when it's I think Dick's birthday or something like that. Rocket and Zatanna show up to the Young Justice hideout back when they had that hideout, and they mention that I think it's McGann or somebody says they want to see pictures of Amistad, meaning she just had him at the beginning of season 2.
Damn, because I remember there was the episode where they all like went to like a fucking baby shower or something for
Yeah, the
Rocket.
Orm bomb episode.
Yeah. So it's just
Yeah,
like,
because like we saw, a little baby Amistad point to somebody's stomach and say, "There's a baby in there." First little hint
there's a
that
baby. Yeah. I remember that. I
Yeah.
remember that.
Yeah, that was Amistad back then. So yeah, and so yeah, now we see how he's doing at this point. But yeah, it's very very interesting. But that's like not even like that's a very like like sensitive topic that I think that they handled very well in the depiction of this. That's one of the first major things I wanted to talk about. Was there anything you wanted to talk about before I get into the second one, which is going to be like also probably as long?
Honestly, I mean, unless you have a question of the day, a question of the episode.
Oh no, yeah. Yeah, you asked me about Amistad first, so yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I guess that would have counted. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
but the other thing I wanted to get into, Ben, we've covered a lot of things with this in it, including a lot of Justice League DC stuff. How much do you know about Jack Kirby's Fourth World?
those are certainly words.
Okay, the Fourth World and Jack Kirby's Fourth World refers to Apocalypse and New Genesis,
Okay.
the actual creation of them and how they stand in the DCU. Like, what do you like know about how they work and what the deal with them is and why they're? I guess you didn't know the term Fourth World, which is what they've always been referred to since like the 70s.
I mean, I guess, you know, new gen like I see a theme of like New Genesis and Apocalypse kind of being like, very Olympian kind of, the regular world and underworld kind of thing. But aside from that, except for some of the people who live on New Genesis and Apocalypse, I really don't actually know anything about their creation or anything else really.
Okay, all right. So the Fourth World refers to these two planets specifically, but the actual origin was do you know Jack Kirby, like his actual history and everything?
Nope.
Okay. Jack Kirby and Stan Lee were the two people who basically made Marvel. Like Jack Kirby made like a ton of people like Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, Captain America, Iron Man, all those people. Like the big Marvel people were made by him and Stan Lee. Mostly Jack Kirby though.
Okay.
Way back in the 70s and 80s and stuff like that. They had a falling out back when Marvel's actual head like tried to make up a new deal. Stan Lee got a great one for himself, but like Jack Kirby had a really shitty deal. And so he just said, fuck Marvel, left it, and went to DC Comics, their direct competitor. One of the ideas he was working on before that, though, was that he wanted to do a story about Ragnarok for Thor in that whole series. And it was going to be that Ragnarok's going to happen, Thor and all of his god friends, Hercules and all the rest of them, are going to all die and be gone from the Marvel Universe. But then out of that, new gods would arise. And he had a bunch of like mock-ups and sketches of characters who would eventually become the new gods we know from this series. So when he went to DC Comics, he came up with this idea of the fourth world, which was the first world was the world of the gods, and it was like a huge world where all the gods we know, like, Thor and the Greek gods and like, the Masonic gods and like, ancient old gods like Cthulhu and stuff. All those gods were on different planet, first planet. And then that one and another god planet went to war and destroyed each other. That was the second planet, or second world. The third one was the energy from that cataclysmic battle of gods created Earth, and that's why there's so much superhero, like, appearances and like manifestations and like weird coincidences that create all the heroes on Earth. Is because it was made from the energy of that planet exploding.
Ah, okay.
And then the fourth world was the new planet with new gods who were not as powerful as any of the ancient gods, but were like, they're brand new. And then the Apocalypse was the other like opposite. And then, of course, the story of Allfather and Darkseid trading sons, Caliban and Orion, to like make peace with each other. You know that story, correct, right?
Yeah, it was. See, I did remember the Orion and Caliban trade thing to at least usher peace, and I do know that. I mean, you say that they're not as strong as the ancient gods, and then there's Darkseid.
Yeah, Darkseid is. Well, Darkseid is, as I say.
Yeah, exactly, Darkseid is. But no. Go on with what you were gonna say, though.
But no, yeah, he's made himself. But yeah, the comics. It was originally when he made this idea with DC. They allowed, since Jack Kirby was so famous and he made so many huge Marvel characters, they're like, you can do whatever you want. So he had 4 series. One was the Forever People, who we met, I think, in season 1 of Young Justice, like Bear and Dreamer and all of them.
Yeah, I remember them.
And the guy we're going to see next season, I forgot his name, Viking, was also not in the first season. That was the first comic he made back in the 70s. The second comic was Orion and the New Gods, which is just following Orion, talking about, and like all the stuff that we're seeing in this with like the depiction of him losing control, but the Mother Box calming him and changing his appearance, is all there in that original comic series.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the other comics were Mr. Miracle, I think his name is, right? Or is it Miracle Man? I think married to Big Barda.
Yeah, I think it's Miracle Man. I can't remember though.
Yeah, that was the other comic, and then there was a fourth one I can't remember, which isn't great. But like all the comics except for Miracle Man utterly failed. Nobody cared, nobody liked them, and like nobody bought the Forever People, nobody bought Orion's comics, and the only one that was successful was Miracle Man. And so he just started reincorporating all the other New God stuff into like, the Superman lore and everything like that to make them more like relevant, because like those comics really didn't do well. But that's just the history of Jack Kirby's Fourth World and the New Genesis Apocalypse situation. I just wanted to get into that real quick, because it is like, we've seen it since like the Superman series. These people have been popping up in like everything, and like it's never really been clear to me, so I had to look up what the fuck the deal with all of them was. But yeah, that is what is of the New Gods we've seen, on the good side and the bad side. Whose ones that you actually like? Also, I was gonna say, in the Mr. Miracle comic, the one that was successful, that's where Granny Goodness and the Furies and everything came from, so I'm glad that one did well.
Right.
I love Granny Goodness.
Yeah, trust me, you've let us know. So anyway, of the New Gods, I mean, and all I know from this is, like from like the original Justice League cartoon and like Justice League Unlimited and stuff like that. So I mean, knowing that Orion, he was an interesting one, because I mean, yeah, sure, he was like, very serious, but he was one of the first New Gods I ever met, as well as the High Father as well. But unfortunately, there's really not a lot of the new Genesis, like the New Gods, that I kind of like. Now we go to Apocalypse, on the other hand.
Hell yeah.
And I mean, okay, but sorry to the viewers. I'm not saying that there are bad ones from the New Genesis, like gods. There's just not a lot of memorable ones,
Yeah,
except
that's why
for
the
maybe
comics all failed.
Orion. Except for maybe Orion. But then
Yeah,
you go
I
to
think the Forever people are very
Apocalypse.
lame.
Then you go to Apocalypse, and you have, Granny Goodness. You have Desaad. You have literally Darkseid himself. It's just like that's
You can't forget
three.
Steppenwolf.
That's like, wait, isn't that a band?
Yeah.
There's a joke right there. There's a joke right there. Yeah, nobody remembers Steppenwolf except for Zack Snyder.
Yeah, for some fucking reason.
Well, I mean, but you're right. Steppenwolf. I mean, even fucking Steppenwolf got an important role in media, and
the Furies, Barda, and all of them.
Yeah, the Furies even and all. It's just like there's a lot more memorable people because Apocalypse has been really, really important to the whole DC fucking multiverse. Even if you want any of the story arcs, Apocalypse is always important, so you get to know all of them more. And honestly, just the fact that and it's Apocalypse. They're all sadistic, evil, twisted beings that just like thrive on the suffering of everyone. It's just sorry.
Yeah, the fact that they utilize all those characters as villains in Superman stuff so frequently. That's why that side is so prevalent and like well displayed in all sorts of media. Whereas the rest of the fucking new gods on New Genesis are like never even not even a passing thought practically.
Yeah, so like when it comes to like what I like, who I like, sorry, it's a one-sided thing, but it's just like
yeah, well,
I don't know much about the New Genesis side of things rather than the Apocalypse side of things.
Of course, there's a reason they didn't do well. One side survived and went on to be incredibly popular, and the other side's like barely ever shown in anything, in any media or anything. Games and shit will always have them before anybody else. So yeah, that is, fucking all that for the first episode, but now we're about to get into an episode that when this episode aired, I literally had tears in my eyes, practically, because of like what's gonna happen in this next episode.
wait, is this the one?
This is the one that I'm about to. Now, you think that this in between bit was like twice as long as the episode we just described. Now we're about to get to the fucking real meat.
Hey. This is the episode though, right? This is the one.
Course. Yeah.
Like the really good one that when you and I first watched it, we were both like going fucking nuts.
Well, I don't know about you. I know I was going nuts.
Dude, I think you and I. Okay, no. Anyway, sorry. So let's get into it. Let's get into it.
We're going to get episode 19. Encounter upon the razor's edge.
We start off in Central City, where in the backyard of the Garrick household, we see Bart just zipping in and out of the bioship. Bart just, zooming around like he always does. Where we see Saturn Girl and Chameleon Boy are just sitting here like, wow. And Chameleon Boy's even like, wow, it took us a really, really long time, like months to build these. And you're saying it only takes him 10 seconds just to install these parts? And of course, Bart's just like, hey, look. I mean, it's me, first off. You got me and everything like that. So, yeah. Does it work? It works and everything. It's all fine. Now, I'm not gonna finish until you tell me what the hell's going on. And of course they're like, we can't tell you because we're gonna create a temporal pair of socks. It's like, yeah, except for one problem. Bart's like, I'm not from this timeline either. And there's no paradoxes, so come on, you can't use that shit on me.
Yeah. We also see Lore and the gang, Mantis and Ma'alafa'ak, in Supertown. Ma'alafa'ak won't obey orders despite Darkseid telling him to obey everything Lorzad said until he knows more about who the hell Lore is. And that is when we hit that intro. After that, we come back to Tomar-Ray and Kilowog. Yay!
Yes, that's right. The Poozer himself is here.
Hell yeah. And of course, whenever Tomar-Ray's on screen, I just, in my head, automatically repeat the only fact I know about Tomar-Ray, which is he's responsible for Krypton blowing up. But that's the only thing I ever think about him.
Wait. Whoa. You spoke a little too quickly. What's the only thing you know about Tomar-Ray?
Tomar-Ray was supposed to protect Krypton. That's like the number one thing about that character. And whenever he's on screen, that's all I think about. They'll mention it later, which I was surprised at. I was like, oh yeah, they actually did mention that. I forgot. Anyway. Tomar-Ray and Kilowog. I'm already getting hyped about this fucking episode.
I know you are. Keep going.
Yeah, Tomar-Ray and Kilowog are flying to the summit, saying that they're going to go to Supertown for this new Genesis bullshit, but they're kind of whatever about it, until they come across a Blue Lantern, and it's Razor!
Yes, it's good old Razor. Yeah. Even Kilowog's like, dude, I know that guy. Flies over to him. Buddy, hey, why are you flying without your ring, buddy?
Yeah, and he's saying, hey, do you lose power? Do you need to recharge? Because that's what Green Lanterns do for Blue Lanterns. And he's saying, no, he's not lost that. He's just lost his hope. Meanwhile, Raquel sees an old friend, Viking, from the Forever People. Remember them?
Yeah.
So he's like, hey, thank God, finally a friendly face. He's like, a friendly face? What are you talking about? And he's just like, yeah, with all these people around here. And she kind of side-eyes Orion. But Viking's like, hey, man, Orion's, he's been through a lot. He's like, he's a cool dude. He's a great protector. And she's like, isn't he Darkseid's son? He's just like, hey, man, he's give him more slack. He's a good guy. We see that Tomar-Ray arrives at the summit while Kilowog is out catching up with Razor since the cancellation of their show.
Since the cancellation of their show.
Literally. Razor talks about finding a Blue Lantern ring while he was exploring the space, trying to find Aya, if you know, you know. But he has kept the red one as he's continued. When he found the Blue Lantern ring, Metron says that he would hold on to the red lantern ring because he just found it. Like, coincidentally, a Blue Lantern ring just appeared to him out of nowhere. Metron says, I'll hold on to the red ring. And he says, fine, I'm going to search for my never-ending quest to find my robot girlfriend. Just like what's his name from Drawn Together. So, as he continues to search on his quest, he says that now, though, since he's lost hope in the quest, he needs to get the other ring back because his rage is all that he has left. And the Red Lantern ring will fuel him better than the Blue Lantern ring at this point. We see the Foragers are now bonding over the new god's statue in Supertown as they're kind of being a little bit flirty with each other as the Foragers are getting along. Then we cut back to Earth, and Saturn Girl begins to explain that the Phantom Zone was a place that Krypton used to lock away all of their worst criminals. But when Krypton exploded, almost all the Phantom Zone projectors were destroyed, except for one, which was kept by the New Gods. And in 1,000 years, they would decide finally that they were to let everyone locked in there on parole if they passed, some kind of parole hearing. And this would be in the 31st century, which is when they are released. They find out that Lor's mother, Ursa, was pregnant with him, and that they are all relocated. All the Kryptonians are located onto Daxam. Eventually, 15 years later, there is a rebellion, and in the future, that the Kryptonians are going to take over and destroy the Legion. Let's see. But now that the Legion was going to continue to fight him, but then there was going to be nothing left. Lor, they locked everybody away except for Lor, since he was not really responsible for what happened in the past. The L family put Zod away originally, and that is why he wants to get revenge on the House of L. We see that the Legion destroyed the Phantom Zone projector in the future, and that their whole group was inspired by Superboy. Which just are two facts that Lor, is also... This story's kind of switching back and forth between Lor telling Malafak and Mantis, and then Saturn Girl telling Flash. He says that he traveled back in time to change the timeline and kill Superboy before he could inspire the Legion to be even created. And as he's doing that, the trio traveled back in time also, but their device was destroyed. I think at some point, this time travel just gets really confusing because at some point they go back to the future and they see that Zod had won because of what he did. It's just very confusing.
Wait a minute, Matt.
Yeah?
Are you saying that we have to go back to the future?
Yeah, that's pretty much what
Marty!
Because there's a lot of different timeline stuff going on, and it's about to get more confusing in this very episode.
Look, Matt. I find that you don't have to think of it as a line, because it's just a big gold globe of, wibbly wobbly, timey wimey stuff.
Timey-wimey stuff. Yeah, it's also time is a flat circle, as they say in freaking what's it called, the other show, True Detective. We see Razor talking to Metron, saying he wants to get the Red Lantern ring back.
And Metron is like, yeah, you can have it back, but give me the blue one.
Yep. This is what he's kind of hesitant about giving that as well. He's not sure what he wants to do. Rocket says she wants to help stop. Oh, was he Darkseid's son on Earth? The new guys can't help.
It was Darkseid's interference on Earth. Yeah.
They need to stop Darkseid's interference on Earth. Man, those are fucked up. But the new guys refuse to help because they cannot get involved with anything involving Darkseid.
Right, because of that whole deal with the trading of suns, pretty much.
Yep, and they said that they need a neutral mediator, which is why the Green Lanterns are here. They're supposed to be helping. And then Orion's like, well, yeah, the Green Lanterns are supposed to hold Granny Goodness, but her and the Furies had escaped. And he's just saying, hey, man, we have a lot going on besides just fucking one planet like Earth, or the new guys aren't the only main priority of ours. And Orion makes a joke about, like, yeah, why are there so many fucking Earth Green Lanterns anyway? And he's just like, Kilowog's kind of like, Earth's a weird place. There's a lot of weird stuff going on in Earth, and that's why there's like 5 Earth Green Lanterns, but not that many for any other sector even. Nice little meta joke. Rocket then says, we have too many metas to deal with. We need more help, and that's why we need more GLs and the new gods to help us with all these people. And that's when Kilowog's like, hey man, we protect the entire galaxy. We really don't have time for just your Earth. Rocket then gets a phone call, and she's saying, excuse me, I gotta go take this. Back with Lore and the Legion explaining their timey-wimey stuff.
Back to the confusion, if you didn't get confused already.
Yeah, this one actually takes the time to go through the entire Mars arc and explain. Actually, even before that, like the previous season when we saw like a Legionnaire ring person pouring coffee, or serving, like working in a diner, or like bumping into them during the last couple of seasons. They explained all those cameos were them trying to protect Superboy specifically because they knew that Lore was coming back into the past to fuck with him or kill him even.
Yeah, and they even explaining
in the Mars arc.
Yeah, like literally being like, yeah, we even went to Mars to shadow him, but apparently Lore did too. And of course, apparently Lore has this time sphere still, and still is like, being undetected, where he used this heat vision to destroy the Martian Zeta tube. It's like, wait, what? Yep. And for the Zeta tube to go to the Mars Earth communication satellite. Yep, that was all him. That was all Lore.
Yeah. It's very, very, it's a nice little wrap up to something you could probably piece together at this point, but it's nice for them to finally just establish all of this crazy ass background stuff that's been happening this whole season.
Mm-hmm.
Rocket talks to Homicide's father, and she's saying like, hey, I'm a little bit fucking busy, like too busy for your son? And she's just like, okay, what is going on? The school wants to give him more aid. They want to have like somebody working with him at school all the time, and she's not sure because that would kind of ostracize him. And he's kind of like, you're worried about the wrong stuff. Our son needs help more than he needs to worry about being ostracized at school. And this is back when we see Razor continuing to be on the fence about the ring exchange with Metron. He goes back and forth about what if the ring won't work, if he takes the Red Lantern ring back, if he's not full of rage enough. The Blue Lantern's hope thing is not really working for him as well. He's not sure what the hell he needs to do. And while he's like kind of conflicted about this, Metron kind of just like pulls the whole wool over everyone's eyes, like, okay, come on, man. You really think it was a fucking coincidence, you idiot? It turns out it was all a plan from Metron. He wanted to see how the rings would interact. He saw how a Red Lantern ring would interact with him, and then when he took it, he saw if he could fill it with a Blue Lantern ring. And he says that this was a 4-year-long plan, since the show was canceled, so the other show was canceled, to see if he would be able to lose hope and what would happen once he did with the Blue Lantern ring, because he's not been able to study one yet. And this is when, back with Forager, the Foragers are bonding back in the park, but as they're doing that, we see Razor begin to explode and blow stuff up, trying to attack, trying to get Razor's attention. It's very cool. Rocket, again, is pulled away from the call because of the insane attack happening with Razor. As he's like losing control and the Red Lantern ring kind of flew onto his hand from his rage. He destroys the big giant New God statue where the Foragers are hanging out, and they're almost in trouble. Let's see. The Foragers kind of just finally stop him from destroying all kinds of shit. As he's kind of like, I need to, learn to control myself, and I can't let myself be given over to the rage or anything like that. As the Blue Lantern ring also flies back onto his hand, because he's beginning to have hope again in his long quest. As he sees that the blue and red rings are both fueling him, because he's equal parts rage and hope. And Metron's like, what the hell? That's literally impossible.
Yeah, he's like, wait a minute. No, this isn't what we agreed on. Give me the rings. And Razor just is like, you know what? Punches him with both rings.
Yeah. He overpowers Metron, who's one of the most powerful new gods, I think, and sends him off into his weird little, the cubby area. And we see the other new gods are, nonplussed when he says, it was Metron. And they're like, oh, of course it was.
yeah. Wait, what was all of this? Metron. Oh, okay. Yeah, no.
That explains it. That's fine. That fucking dickhead.
Yeah, but
it's very funny.
And then, of course, the Foragers are like, he goes down and heals. Heals the other Forager. Well, heals Forager while Forager is like, thank you so much, but I mean, it was Forager's fault that Forager got hurt, and Forager apologizes for getting Forager hurt. Do you get the idea with this? They are doing
Forager. That a lot. Yeah, they do that bit a lot.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, it's just like they don't even distinguish Forager and Forager. They're literally just called Forager, both of them.
Yeah, they know Forager knows which is Forager is Forager.
Anyway,
but yeah, he helps them, and then he rebuilds the statue of the two new gods, adding 2 bugs, and Orion's kind of just like, that's not how it was before. Very funny.
Yeah.
And then Viking says, he means thank you, and then he's like, yeah, okay, whatever. Then Kilowog makes some more jokes about well, come on, you guys, we have to. I guess you're gonna add a green lantern ring onto all the other 2 rings, you goofball. And he's like, Razor is kind of stoic and just like, no, I'm off. I must find Aya. So he looks at the camera and winks all the people who love the Green Lantern animated series.
Hold on a second. He is not stoic about it. He gives the big Poozer a hug first before heading off.
Yeah, of course. And this is when Lore continues his exposition on his new plan. Stranding the Legion to get the projector in the past. And then the Legion explained that the reason that they approached Superman in the earlier this season was because that they want him to go to a planet and do something and activate a device or whatever the hell Superboy's supposed to do in the future for them. And he said, that's why we talked to him, but he's really a backup, but we're not going to sure if it's really going to work the same way with him instead of Superboy. Lore is then seen in the past telling Darkseid what he did, who he is, all of his plans. And he says, and Darkseid was talking about his other weird scheme, some with some Savage. Who knows about that plans? Who cares about that? But he was given the Kaiser Thrall, because it will get them into Metron's vault. And this is when Kid Flash finishes the ship and says, hey, I even added a cosmic treadmill. Which is a little nod to the Legion and Zoom's origins. But yeah, they're going to do that. Now, I didn't write down what the post scene was. Do you remember what it was?
So there's a cake with 3 candles.
Oh, yeah.
1, 0, and 2, yeah?
Yeah. For Jay Garrick's birthday.
Yep, for Jay Garrick's apparently 102nd birthday. And and of course, they're all singing happy birthday. Jade was at the candles and everyone's like, yeah. And Orion's just like, the candles are not as they were.
Yeah, very fun. All right, so this episode introduced Razor. Now, of course, I've mentioned before, I've mentioned at least, that I'm a huge fucking fan of the original Green Lantern CGI show that was aired back in the DC era of Cartoon Network. Did you ever watch the show?
No.
Okay, did you know about the show?
I knew about it, but this was back in the day when some of the DC stuff, I was just like, oh, okay, they're trying to cash in on it, and I didn't watch most of them.
Yeah, that was when they had their little DC Power Hour of, I think it was the first couple seasons of Young Justice, the Green Lantern animated show. They would show Justice League episodes or Static Shock episodes. It was just a block of DC stuff, and then they had a ton of really, really good mini shows that one of them eventually spun off to be Teen Titans Go. But there was a couple of other ones like Princess Amethyst. There was one about Thunder and Lightning, Black Lightning's kids. There was like a whole bunch of these really fun like little mini animated series that they like would put in between all these other things during their DC block. I really love that era. But the Green Lantern show, this showrunner, Greg Weisman, who's like the showrunner for Young Justice, he also does a ton of other stuff, but he was the head of that show before it was canceled. And that's why that was such a precious thing, because Razor is an original character from that show. He's not from the comics. He was like invented for that animated show. And him having popping up here kind of just insinuates that they're in the same universe, which is really fucking, just really dull for all the fans of the series. So Ben, what I want to talk about this little arc is a personal favorite of mine. What do you know of the Lantern Corps?
All right, so I already know that there are quite a few Green Lanterns, especially around Earth, and their home planet is Oa, and the Green Lantern, the green is willpower, and one of the many enemies of the Green Lantern Corps is the Yellow Lantern, who one of the more famous ones being Sinestro, where Yellow
is the creator of the Lantern. He's the creator.
He is actually the creator. Okay.
Yeah, he was the first Yellow Lantern.
Okay. Yeah. And Yellow is Fear. I know that there are many there's the different colors, like we get orange, which is avarice and greed. We know that there's red, Atrocitus. Everyone loves Atrocitus. And Red Lanterns, which is all anger and rage. Then we have the Blue Lanterns, which is hope, points at Razor. And then we have the I think it's the Purple Lanterns, which are love.
No, the Violet. Violet
is love, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know there's the Violet Lanterns, and I honestly, let's see, it did red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet. Is there an indigo?
Yeah, there is the Indigo Tribe, yes.
Yeah, what's the Indigo Tribe? What's their
Compassion.
Passion? Okay.
Compassion.
Oh, compassion. And I know that, if you are able to literally like equally hold the power of all of the different colors, you become the prism itself, also known as a White Lantern, which is like, supposed to be like life and everything like that. And then of course there's the Black Lantern, which is the Black Lanterns, which are death pretty much.
Yeah. Now, do you know how the rings actually function and what their actual abilities are? Because they're very, very different in what they can do.
I bet they are. I know, obviously, we've seen plenty of Green Lantern and Yellow Lantern to know how they work. But I don't recall how the other ones work. Please elaborate.
Of course, this is what I was waiting for. I'll go down the whole Roy G. Biv or whatever. So yeah, Red Lantern, powered by rage, Atrocitus. My favorite character is Atrocitus of almost any of the cores. They are specifically people who have been wronged by any other Lantern Corps. That's how they get their rings. They have to have specific history with another Lantern Corps having wronged them, and then that caused them such rage that they've lost so much. Like, every single Red Lantern is actually a tragic character because they're, like, actually upset because for actual personal reasons, like, deservedly. They don't make constructs. They can only, like, barf out their, like, napalm, like, burning blood. Which is like their Red Lantern power is literally their blood being spewed out.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I do remember the spewing blood thing.
Yeah, they can't make constructs or anything like that. After that is Orange, which there is only one Orange Lantern, and it is Larfleeze, the most greedy being on the planet or on the universe. Literally, he's killed every single other Lantern that has attempted to receive an Orange Lantern ring. The only constructs that is able to make is people that Larfleeze has killed with the Orange Lantern. And he literally cannot let go of his physical lantern that all the other ones used to recharge. He, like, literally will never let go of it because it's his. It's mine. All he ever says is, like, mine, and he's greedy. And he's a very funny, goofy character, but he's obviously a fucking villain. But he's helped pretty much equally as much as he's been a villain, all the other Lantern Corps. But his only constructs they can make are just, like, orange light projections of the people that he's killed who also were greedy beings trying to get the Orange Lantern from him. He just sits on a big giant stockpile of all the other orange rings because no one else can have them but him. The next one is, Yellow Lanterns, Fear. They're just the most, like, piece of shit beings in the galaxy that just are like love to induce fear in everyone around them. And the constructs they make are things that they're afraid of or things that whoever they're against are afraid of. And that's what whatever manifests out of their rings, specifically. And there's some really fucked up people like Kryb, the like baby stealing Yellow Lantern. If you want to see a really creepy image, look up Kryb, Kryb, the Yellow Lantern. She's fucking insane. And then like there's a ton of really cool stories with them. After that would be Green Lanterns, Oa, the Guardians, the original creators of the rings, who only harnessed the green power because of that. After green is blue, which they on their own can literally not do anything. Their rings do not function unless there is a Green Lantern present. So they like can't, but when there is a Green Lantern present, they can literally like reverse an exploding sun. They can bring somebody back to life. They can teleport anywhere in the galaxy. They're like pretty much omnipotent, but only when there's another Green Lantern around to manifest their powers. After that would be the Indigo Tribe, which is one of my favorite cores story-wise, because compassion. Every single person in the Indigo Tribe is a sociopathic criminal. They are criminals who were such insane, horrible murderers, destructive, like forces of nature in their own planet, that they were forced and chained to this long indigo staff that literally just mind controls them to be like basically like a passive zombie. And their power is that they can use all the other lantern powers, but they manifest through they're basically all just like zombified looking like barely reacting people because they're all sociopaths who love to cause harm. And they're just like, men, they're now good guys being forced against their will to be good. And they are manifesting all the other powers of the lanterns. And then the indigo or the sapphire lanterns are the violet tribe. They just make crystal. They can like encase things in crystal. They can, all their like love stuff is just manifested by like, they don't make constructs. They just encase everything in crystal. That's why Star Sapphire was like a Green Lantern villain since the beginning, like since the 70s and 80s. And before there was even the concept of other lanterns was the what's it called? The violet light of love. So yeah, that's the history of all the different lanterns. Now, Ben, which ones would you be interested
in? Honestly,
yeah.
There's a lot. Honestly,
yeah.
I was gonna say that was a lot to take in, but I'm not gonna lie.
Of course.
I would probably be more interested in green or blue, to be honest. More so blue because, I mean, you know, that one sounds more fascinating. But points at indigo, fuck those guys.
The Indigo Lanterns are really fun. Like, they're, for the longest time when this event happened that like brought all these new colors and all these new lanterns out, it was a complete mystery what their deal was, because they would just like show up, help, and like not say anything or speak a language that no other ring could translate for some reason, which is impossible. And like they would just like come, help, and then disappear, and like everyone would be like, "What the fuck were those guys doing here?" But like when you find out what they actually are, it's really funny.
Now, although speaking of things to consider, right?
Yeah.
So I took your advice, and I looked up that one individual known as Kryb, and yeah, you ain't fucking kidding.
Yeah, she's fucking terrifying looking.
She's just terrifying, period.
Yeah. She's fucking horrible. But that's also one of my favorite. Like, there's all the Yellow Lanterns are some of my favorite. There's Arkillo, who's a very cool, he's like the Kilowog equivalent of the Yellow Lanterns. He's like Sinestro's number 2. He's a big, strong, dumb guy. And I love that character. He's really funny. But yeah, like but they've all helped each other. Like all the Lanterns have helped each other in the past in various situations. They've come together. There's also after the desolation of all the Lantern Corps, there's been other like aspects of them. There's like also beyond all those colors and white and black, there's also ultraviolet, which is the invisible spectrum of light, which is like what Sinestro gets when he evolves past being all the other Lanterns. Is really cool. But yeah, what's it called? My main in Injustice and like the main villain of the Green Lantern animated series was, of course, my fucking dude, Atrocitus himself. the fucking coolest dude. That's why I love the Red Lanterns. And just like, yeah, there's so many cool characters. I love the aesthetics of those comics because they're so brightly colored, obviously, because of all the, all the lanterns doing all their powers all the time. Some of the most like beautiful artwork you'll ever see is is any of those like Lantern books outside of the Green Lantern series.
Right.
I fucking love it. But yeah, and also, yeah, all the Earth Green Lanterns, which we've talked about in the past. John Stewart, there's Shabazz, I think his name is something like that. He's a newer one. Kyle Rayner, who's like the young animator one. Of course, Hal Jordan. Jennifer Cruz is a new Green Lantern on Earth. And of course, Guy Gardner, his goofy ass is like the fucking pervy dickhead. Like, yeah, there's a ton of Green Lanterns on Earth for whatever reason, just coincidentally and because of the weird energy and all that kind of shit. But yeah, I love their comics. They're so beautifully drawn and like really colorful and bright. I love all the concepts of all of them because seeing them use their powers and fighting each other, it's always really cool to see. And that's why I've been so upset that they've never had a good movie. Because did you see the Ryan Reynolds movie?
Unfortunately.
Back in the day, Green Lantern one? Yeah, what a piece of shit. The fucking
unfortunately, I've seen that
Parallax.
one, yeah.
I really, God. And then, yeah, people are upset how Nathan Fillion looks as Guy Gardner in the new Superman movie I'm looking forward to. But I just hope that the movie does well because that means there's a chance we'll finally get some actual good Green Lantern content in, like, live action shit. But yeah, any stuff you want to know about Green Lanterns or anything like that, Ben? Or ready to? Also, the other thing I was going to talk about was time travel. We talked about that enough in all the other episodes of this show.
Yeah, look, we've already talked about time travel so much that we don't really need to anymore. So,
yeah.
I would say honestly, we could just go to the next episode.
Oh yeah, because there's not going to be much more Lantern stuff after that. After Razor's little cross series crossover, because yeah. If you get a chance, everyone, we're not going to cover it on the show because it's such a short-lived series, but the Green Lantern animated series, definitely check it out because I think it's some of the best Green Lantern representation that we're ever going to get for a while. But yeah, I love the Lanterns. It's one of my favorites. That's probably my favorite DC aspect outside of Kryptonians, is the Lantern saga and all the Lanterns. They all have their own, like the brightest day, blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware my power, Green Lantern's light. They all have their own...
Yeah, they all have their oath.
Yeah, they all have their own oaths like that, and they're all really funny. They're all really interesting whenever you hear them. Because the Indigo one is just a bunch of nonsense because no one can understand their language. So it's just a bunch of weird noises that don't mean anything to anybody. All right, so let's get to the next episode in the batch. Are you ready?
Episode 20, is it?
Yep, episode 20.
Forbidden Secrets of Civilizations Past. Hey, take over. I gotta do something.
Yeah, you hurry up. Supertown. We see Orion speaking to Rocket, and he is apologizing to her regarding his behavior in the past. He is very curt, as always, given his vaguely autistic codedness. When he walks into the sphere, we see that it's revealed that the person apologizing to Rocket was actually Ma'ala, and he says, like, yeah, don't worry. They're all, distracted, so they don't know we're on the planet already. And this is when we hit the intro. After the intro, we see Ma'ala tell them that the Ruction cell is set and sabotaged. This whole episode is going to be very weird and confusing timeline-wise because there's going to be a lot of jumping all over the place. So Mal has messed with the cell, and he tells him that Rocket does not trust Orion. Lore did not know that Orion was Darkseid's son. He's saying, why would his son defect? Is Darkseid not a good leader? That's very confusing. A son should never go against their father, Lore says, knowing that his father's a supervillain. Lore gives the key to the device, or the key to the Kaiser Thrall, and it is revealed that in the first episode, in this batch, it was Mal who had sabotaged the cell that the Larvas had, because this is now a weird timeline fucker with this. We see that the Kaiser Thrall has locked on to the signal that it's trying to get to, and it begins to mess with the time sphere. Meanwhile, we see back to old Beast Boy being a real dink to Black Canary. We see that he is at the required therapy session so that he can remain living in the house with the rest of the people and technically remain a member of the Outsiders. We see that he's being very, very receptive to the session, and he does actually want to rejoin the team and start going on missions again. He says that he's back to sleeping normally, he's off the medication. He's saying that the reason that he doesn't want to participate in the show anymore is because he doesn't want to be an actor. He wants to be, something real that's actually helping people. We also see that he is ready to communicate with his friends. He doesn't want to continue to push people away, and that he is also over the loss of Connor since that situation has traumatized him so much. Ben, are you back yet? Suppose not. Okay. So, back with Rocket. She is in the talks again with the whole group.
Hello?
Yeah, you back?
Yeah. Like, you said, are you back? And I said, yeah. You said, I guess not.
Yeah, you didn't. Yeah, I didn't hear anything. Anyway. So yeah, back in the conversation, Rocket is back in the talks with the Green Lanterns and the New Genesis gods, and she's curious why Orion's continuing to be so weirdly difficult with her. Your turn, Ben?
Where were we, did you say?
Rocket's back at the talks after Beast Boy's first part of the therapy session.
Okay. My notes. No, fuck. Sorry. Opening up notes.
All right, well, first, yeah, the new gods say that they are willing to help Earth if they hand over Cyborg and Halo, since they are both weird amalgams of new god technology and human organicness, which is a very bizarre thing, and Metron really wants to study it. We see that Halo also apparently has part of the anti-life equation in her, which is a new fucking development, I think. I don't remember. I don't know if Granny Goodness found that out last season or what.
Yeah, I don't remember that being anything.
Or in them. Sorry for misgender. I don't mean to misgender Halo. I remember that they're going to do by they, them now. Rocket says that Halo has family on Earth and that they cannot be taken by the team like Granny Goodness tried. And Orion says, fine, we'll withdraw, handing over Cyborg and Halo. Then out of nowhere, Bear interrupts. He's like, hey, sorry to interrupt you guys. And he's like, no, you're not sorry. You did this on purpose. Orion says, he's just like, very, like, I know what you are, you Bear, you fucking idiot. He gives him a big, giant hug, and then he gives him his condolences on the death of Superboy.
Right.
And this is when Tomar Ray mentions the only fact about Tomar Ray, which is he was supposed to stop Krypton from exploding, but he wasn't there.
Found my spot. And then, of course, he he's just like, and he had been friends with, like, Jor-El and Zor-El as well. He's like, I deeply apologize for everything that I could not do for them. Meanwhile, in the Phantom Zone, Drew Zod, of course, is leading Superboy through the zone, and he starts explaining to him about the dangers of the zone. And, he's like, we gotta stick together. We gotta stick together so that, if someone, like, gets under hallucinations and stuff, we can defend each other, we can do everything we can. Oh, by the way,
having friends keeps you sane.
Yep, keeps you sane and focused, as he points to an encampment where 5 other Kryptonians emerge from, like, crude buildings made from piles of rocks, and they all kneel before Zod.
Yay!
Meanwhile, in the Mobius dimension,
Laura Zod's sphere appears in Metron's archive. I literally prefer to it as like Metron's archive more than I do the Mobius dimension.
Yeah, right. But anyway, they actually get the they get there. Zor does get there, and all of a sudden it's just like, I said Lore. It sounded like Zor. Lore gets there, and the Kaiser Thrall deactivates. Everyone's disoriented except for Laura, of course. So, following the tracer signal, leading them to so many tall towers and everything, they find the Infinity Vault. And then
they're attacked by a weird. I wrote some kind of like nanobots mist of something.
Yeah, it pretty much some kind of whatever the hell that is.
Yeah.
So back in the therapy session, hey Gar, how's Perdita doing? And he's like, okay, I'm gonna admit we're we kind of had a falling out, and it was my fault because I kind of I want to be able to smooth things over, and she's like, okay, you should call her then. This is like, nope, I can't do that because I need privacy for a hot makeup call.
Yeah,
Just
our
like
calls can get pretty
I'm
hot.
like, I'm like,
It's like, oh, okay.
yeah, come on, seriously now, Gar,
Mm.
buddy. And then it's like, Dinah's like, okay. And then of course, this is when he mentions, in my notes, apparently, this is when he, like, mentions the sleeping pills and all that stuff.
Yeah, she says, so are you actually off the pills? And he's like, yeah, sure. It's okay. Well, then would you take a drug test? It's only been recent. They may still be in my system. And she's like, so you think you're ready to go back on the team then? He's like,
and of course, and as she's giving him like all of these questions, he starts getting frustrated, and like more and more because she keeps prodding him about these things. And she's like, okay, you want to be full, you want to do long term or short term on the, and of course Gar's like, I want to do long term. Long term, obviously. It's like, okay, then why were you taken off of the rotation? And insisting that it was his decision, but it's like, but then Dinah actually gets to the thrust of it being like, you didn't really want to go back, and I think this is the part where he like breaks down pretty much. It is like,
he begins to. He said he blames him. He says, like, hey, look, okay, I know, yeah, it's my fault. It's my fault that Connor died. And that's when we cut off for the moment, because we usually get through more of like his guilty feelings in a bit.
Of course,
but,
of course. Like
yeah,
that's when he first breaks down. Like, yeah, okay, I get it. I'm the one who got him killed, and then we go back to the conference where Orion's
like, can we please get back on subject? And Bear's like, so Forager, how's your sex life?
Oh, that's it, Orion. Can we please keep focused? Bear's like, yeah, that's fine. So Forager, how's your sex life?
They talk about the speed of relationships with he's like, yeah, you guys known each other for like 5 seconds. And Forager's like, yeah, Forager knows he's taking a long time. And it's just like, well, you guys are going really too fast. And then Jay says like, hey, and when you get to my age, you really got to learn to take things slow. And then Bear's like, oh, okay, young man, or whatever. And he's like, how old are you, Bear? And he's like, oh, this short of 16,000.
I'm a young, spry 16,000. And then like,
and Kilowog's just like sitting there like, oh, okay, this is gonna take a while. And then we hear his ring say, disposing of waste. And he's like, just shit.
Like, no, shut up. And of course, Rocket is sitting here just getting really frustrated. And
Ryan's like, please, back to business.
Yeah, right. It's funny because Rocket is, and also like, can we please? Meanwhile, back in the Phantom Zone, Drew's like, hey, look, this is my life mate, Ursazod. And of course, Drew's like, all like through telepathy, Drew is like slow playing. No, we're doing the slow play.
This one, yeah.
And of course,
they talk about like, what's with this girl down here? Like, oh, I call her Ghosty. She's been asleep. And Ursa's like, people don't really fall asleep and they don't really heal here. So she may literally never wake up if she's in that condition right now.
Right. And then of course, let's see. Sorry, looking through my notes. It's like, yeah, she's unconscious. Like, yeah, and then like, you must have cared. So, that's what it was. Yeah, you must have cared for her a lot, and then that triggers a lot more memories of training with Beast Boy, playing with Johnny at the Kent's farm and everything. The photo of the team, the proposing to McGann, and then we get back to fucking the Infinity Vault, where, yep.
Laura and the gang searching, and then Laura finds a big old giant green eyeball, and he's just like, oh, no way, it's this. And then like, what's that? And he's like, don't worry about it. The weird nanite things attacks, and Laura's like, oh my god, it's a baby sun. Or is it Laura who says it, or somebody else is like, it's
I think Laura did.
Yeah, he's like, oh, it's a baby sun eater. And they're like, okay, well, it begins to attack them, but Ma'alaf blasts it with his mind powers. They realize that they can't attack it, so they just have to just like get back into their vault and wait for this thing to dissipate. Meaning that they have no way of like actually countering this weird creature. But back with Black Canary and Beast Boy.
Yeah,
Canary,
she's like, she puts down the air quote checklist that she was just going through.
And you see that it's actually a blank notebook she had. She wasn't writing anything down.
Yeah, right. And then she's like, and, you know, seeing that, you know, Beast Boy is finally like confronting the fact, like the real thrust of why he's upset. She's like, okay, you blame yourself for killing Connor. How did you even do that? And so he explains the whole, like, you know, I knew he was weakened. I needed to get him to some sun, but he was too far away from the sun, and then the gene bomb happened. And you're like, and you know, Dinah's like, he so he knew how to defuse it, or I mean,
could you have defused the bomb? Like, I could have tried. Like, and then what about the lava? Would you have been able to survive that? And she's like, well, no. And he's like, and also there was kryptonite gas in there, so if Superman had gone, he would have also been killed. So is that also your responsibility? And he's like, no. Like, okay, so yeah, if it's your responsibility, is it also McGann's? And he just like continues to be like pissed about that. But she's kind of breaking down all of his like guilt and how it doesn't really make sense in the grand scheme of things. He also then blames himself for Brion. He blames himself for Wally. He blames himself for Rita, and he blames himself for his mother. All these people around him who have all died, and he thinks that he just needs to somehow do better.
And of course, but you know, Dinah's just like,
you cannot blame yourself for this. Yeah,
and Dinah's like, okay, going with your mother thing, what could you have done? You were literally 8 years old.
And a bunch of the Justice League can't stop Queen Bee. So what the hell?
Yeah, right. It's just like, yeah, like there's some things you just cannot do. There's some things you just do not have the power to do. You know, trying to reason with him, you know, that, you know, he doesn't have to put all of this on him, kind of thing. And of course, Gar's just like, I really don't want to be powerless, and I should have done something, even if I couldn't have. And, you know, like, he finally admits that, in his breakdown, he admits that he needs help. Like, officially and real. It's like, I need help. And, of course, Dinah's like, admitting is the first step. Is the first real step. And I know that sounds cheesy, but trust me, that's actually a very true statement, too.
An important lesson. Back in the Mobius dimension, we find that it's been a full day for the gang inside of there, and they still have not been able to find the projector as they're continuing the search. During this time, we see Metron appear and grab the box with the Red Lantern ring, meaning this is happening during episode 2. And Laura says, okay, you know what, we're going to grab his dumbass. We see when he is blasted, when Metron is blasted by the red and blue lantern rings and goes to the Mobius dimension. Lore then jumps up and grabs him, flings him out of his chair, and we see the Kaiser Thrall lock both him and the device in this like time zone and in this like area, meaning they cannot escape. And then like while they're like locked in, we see that Lore's like, tell me where the Phantom Zone projector is now. And then in the Phantom Zone, we meet Nan and Feora. Yay! They see how like easily they're like lifting giant rocks in this thing, because he says that everything in this dimension is powered by willpower, and that's how you move anything, that's how you interact with anything, that's how you're able to protect yourself. And then they get a nice little song about the word of Zod.
Yeah, the word of Zod, how to save the House of Zod. All hail Lord Zod.
The House of Zod. Very weird little bit.
And of course,
as we're doing this, Connor begins to get flashbacks specifically of the recent Mars arc and McGann.
And of course, Zod's like, hey, here's a choice. You can stay and be a part of House of Zod, or you can leave and go to the zone on your own. And of course, Connor thinks about it, and then he bows his head and kneels in front of Zod. It's like, oh shit! Villain arc number 3.
Back in the Mobius dimension, Lore is having no luck finding it. But Ma'alafa'ak says that he can't read Metron's mind, because I guess he's a new guy and he's powerful, and he also has that weird helmet on. And he cannot... And he says, and I'm sure Metron is a new guy. He can outweigh any torture we can do to him to get any answers. And then Metron says, hey, man, I can show you where the box is. Malefak says that Lore is Kryptonian. And that's when Metron's like, oh, I'll show you where the box is here. As he goes to it, he says, "Okay, yeah, I'll show you where the box is. Right this way." And of course, it's kryptonite. He opens up, and then
surprise,
as
kryptonite.
as he's being affected by the kryptonite, we see that he snaps and the baby sun eater begins to attack the rest of the gang. He gets back into his chair and then just pops out in a boom tube to go to where the meeting is. As he just pops into the meeting, he says, "Hey, everybody, I need to come back to the archive right now. I'm being attacked." And then they're kind of like, "Oh, boy." But this is when, after all this time, Mantis finally steps up. After being, he was earlier in the episode, I think he was shit talked by Lore by saying he's useless because Malifaux can at least stop the Sun Eater, and Lore is Kryptonian, so he's also powerful. But Mantis is an idiot; and he's useless. We see Mantis is actually able to save both Lore and Malifaux as they flee in. He flees with them into the device. And then we see with the time sphere, we see he goes a day earlier, which is very smart, and searches the area because if the kryptonite was in that area, this is obviously where Kryptonian shit is being stored. So he just started searching those boxes as fast as he can, and he manages to find the Phantom Zone projector on his own.
Also known as Mantis, the most useful one of the three.
Yeah, the only one to get it done, which is very funny.
Then meanwhile, and that's when we get to the end credit scene with
post credits.
Yep. Foragers looking up at the statues of the High Mother and the High Father, and
and the bugs,
and all the bugs and everything, and recites a soliloquy from Romeo and Juliet. I forget which one it is though.
Yeah. The classic one where Juliet is the sun and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that one. It's a cute moment.
So very dramatic.
So hey,
yeah.
Love how the Eye of Ekron was there.
Yeah, another Green Lantern shout out.
Yeah. And for those of you who don't know, Matt can give you the full details if he wants to about the Emerald Empress.
I mean, not right now, not yet. We have to wait for that one.
Yeah, I know, but still, either way, it's just like, yeah, I actually know a very small amount of that, but I did know what that was. I'm just like, really? The Eye of Ekron is here?
Yeah, it's so random.
It really was, and trust me, it was also very random that's the thing I remember.
Yeah. But yeah, this bit I was talking about. Do you have anything you wanted to talk about before I get into whatever I was talking about?
What's up?
Anything you wanted to talk about before I got into my stuff?
Oh, let's see. Well, first off, I wanted to comment on the Eye of Ekron because
of course.
I know of all the weird things for me to remember, that was the one I'm like, oh yeah, the Emerald Empress. Why was she important? And then of course, shout outs to again Mantis, the only one who got shit done.
Yeah, the most smartest member of the group.
But then, honestly, as of right now, can't think of anything, but I know you do, so let's go.
Of course. I wanted to talk about the Kryptonians in the Phantom Zone. Did you know where all of them are from?
What? All of the people in the you said in the Phantom Zone?
There were four. Yeah, there were 4 Kryptonians mentioned in the Phantom Zone with Zod and gang. Feora, Nan, Ursa, and Druzad.
Ah, okay.
Do you know where they're from?
Nope.
Okay. Well, first I wanted to say, Nan, Ursa, and Druzad are all from the Donner 70s Superman movie.
Oh, okay.
Ursa and Nan specifically were created for that. They're invented by the Donner Superman movie back in the 70s. And then in the sequels when they actually come to Earth and all that kind of stuff. Zod is an old Superman villain, obviously. You know about Zod. He's usually by himself before those two were invented. And then Feora is from Zack Snyder's Man of Steel. She was the one with the short hair, like the female Kryptonian with the short hair, who's like was really fucking cool in that movie. She's the only one that had an actual like super fight and like killed a bunch of people with actual Superman level powers. And they had their weird armor and shit. But yeah, that was a shout out to all those characters from the other stuff like that. And then I wanted to mention Zod's voice actor, Phil Morris, who is a long-term DC actor. He's been in a ton of DC stuff. If you see him, you probably recognize him, but he is voicing both Zod and Lore in this show. Played John Jones in Smallville, the old Smallville show.
Mm-hmm.
He also plays Silas Stone in the Doom Patrol show on HBO Max, which is an incredibly funny fucking show that everyone should watch. But of course, Ben, you definitely would know him as Vandal Savage from Justice League Unlimited.
Oh.
Yeah, and of course, I know him from Saint Walker, the Blue Lantern, from the Green Lantern animated series we just got done talking a long ass time about as well. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about was the specifically the Black Kryptonians. Did you know that it's an actual specific thing? Like, the actual country that dark-skinned Kryptonians comes from is an actual known thing in like lore and everything like that.
I did not know that, actually.
Yeah, it is specifically the country is called Vathlo, and there are many series with a black General Zod, or the Krypton TV show on Sci-Fi Channel, or like some of the other interpretations have had Zod as a black the Vathlo Kryptonian before. But the other one is that the other main like AU thing with the black like Superman on Earth is a Superman who specifically is from that country Vathlo on Krypton. Now I don't even know what the hell the name of the country that white main Superman is from is called, but I do know that the country of Black Kryptonians is called Vathlo. And then I wanted to talk about like how strong Kryptonians are, or how capable they are compared to every other race. Like, they're able to overpower the new gods for the most part very easily.
Mm-hmm. We've
And,
seen
like,
that. We've seen that in like Justice League, where like even
Yeah.
fucking Superman was easily overpowering them.
Yeah, like how insanely strong those Kryptonians are compared to like every other race practically. And why that is, which is like I was curious. I was like, yeah, why are they so proportionally insanely more powerful than every other group? And like, of course, the main thing that most people think about is like, if Kryptonians are that much stronger under yellow sunlight, why the hell are they on a planet with a red sun? If they know what they're capable of, and it's like way back in the, it's like millennia after millennia of like eugenics and genetic engineering, and like maybe some guidance by their god Rao, who like is a known god from the First World series and like the old in like DC Comics and stuff like that. Rao is the main god of Krypton, but like there's lots and lots of genetic engineering, which is the main plot line in Zack Snyder's movie, but also in a ton of the comics and stuff like that. And then they had, at one point in their past, when they first realized that they could go off planet, and what happened when they did, which was the yellow sun shit, they had things called world breakers, which is pretty much what Superman is. Any Kryptonian that left the planet went to a yellow planet and took over. Like, if you know, what's the show? Invincible. The Viltrumites. Do you know anything about Invincible yet?
I've not watched it, but I've seen plenty of clips to know what Viltrumites are.
Okay. Well, the actual like story of them in the current part, like in the beginning of Invincible, is what the Kryptonians were like at one point. But eventually, their scientists and their enlightenment and their just superiority made them realize that they were too strong to go off planet, and they were too powerful to be going off with as world breakers and just like fucking taking over planets and by one person at a time with their like Superman like strength. So they decided to lock themselves only to that planet. The other one that they mentioned in this bit, Daxam, which is like the a cousin race of theirs, like the first colony of other Kryptonians.
Mm-hmm.
There are plenty of Daxamites who you know in the like Mon-El and stuff like that in like DC Comics and stuff like that. And there's a ton of them. There's a whole story line with them with the Yellow Lanterns. The reason that Daxam is they're so anti-science and like pro-religion that they're like too stupid to get off the planet and realize what they're capable of if and when they do.
Dang.
And their weakness is, as opposed to kryptonite, their weakness is just lead, which is a lot easier for people to utilize to stop them. But if they do get off planet, they are basically as strong as Kryptonians. And so, yeah, I was like, yeah, so just lots of genetic engineering, the hand of their ancient god Rao, they're just weirdness, and that's how the Kryptonians are so like ridiculously strong and powerful compared to everything else. And Lord was able to overpower a like high level new god with no problem. We've seen fucking Superman absolutely World of Cardboard destroy Darkseid when he's actually trying. It's just like, yeah, Kryptonians are absolutely insane of what they're capable of, and that's why I love Superman, because it's like when they actually try, when they actually utilize them, it's just like there's nothing that anyone can do to stop them practically. But yeah, so let's see. Out of Let's see. Any Kryptonian stuff you like know about or read or any like thing you follow or any like series besides like Superman stuff?
Let's see. Green Kryptonite is the one that we know the most, which weakens him. I know
Hmm.
Gold Kryptonite removes power completely to any Kryptonian who comes in contact with it.
Hmm.
Pink Kryptonite looks at the audience, stares at the audience quietly.
Yeah.
Well, for those of you who don't know, apparently Pink Kryptonite was a thing that was created, and it makes Superman gay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's very still canon too.
Wait, it is actually still canon?
I think it actually at some point now can actually like literally transition them. It's weird. It's a very bizarre how the mechanics of that thing work.
That's crazy. But anyway,
Yeah.
that's all I know about Kryptonite, to be honest.
There's blue kryptonite, which doesn't do anything to Kryptonians, but does hurt Bizarro Superman.
Oh, that's right. The blue one hurts Bizarro, and if I remember correctly, doesn't like red Kryptonite put him into a rage?
Yeah, red kryptonite makes him go crazy, angry, which has some kind of tie to to the Red Lantern's powers, I believe.
Right.
But yeah, there's black, which is just like instant death, I believe. I'm not 100% certain. There's a couple other ones, but they're not really relevant to the most part. Do you know what happens to Kryptonians under the Red Sun? Obviously, but do you know what
They
happens
lose.
under a Blue Sun?
See, with the red sun, they lose their powers. Yellow sun, it strengthens their powers. Blue sun, I don't know.
In Blue Sun, it actually gives humans powers when in proximity to Kryptonians.
Interesting.
Yeah, very silly, but that's how it works. Yeah, and then of course, yeah, like I say when people say like Superman weaknesses, kryptonite obviously, but then there's also just energy absorbing villains like Parasite can just literally drain Superman's powers, making him as vulnerable as any other being on the planet if he's not overpowered. And then of course there's the magic weakness, which is just that magic affects Kryptonians like normal. As opposed to like if it's magic fire, it'll just burn them like a real fire would because it just goes through their Kryptonian abilities, and that's one of the ways that the New Gods are able to counter Kryptonians whenever they encounter them, is because they do have access to like magic and stuff like that. But yeah, I absolutely love Kryptonians. I think that everything that they're in is really fascinating, especially when they're not like jobbed, when they're actually properly like absurdly invincible. That's when I think that they're handled the best. Yeah, I love Superman comics and shit like that. So whenever they're doing anything, I'm happy with it. But that's me enough about me ranting about Superman and the Kryptonians in this whole season arc. The therapy sessions with Beast Boy. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know,
we finally
his
got him
plotline.
to
I feel like
open
it's
up
such a
about
drag.
that. But yes, it was it was dragged on a lot. The fucking council where it's just like, Orion and Rocket are just like, why are we here? We need to get back on task here, and everyone's just like fucking around.
Yeah, honestly, legit, I want to see this summit work out properly because I would love to see what would happen when Green Lanterns, New Gods, and Earth metas are actually trying to work together to figure out what the hell's going on.
Well, with any
Or
luck,
stop Darkseid.
well, with any luck, we might get to this next episode eventually.
Yeah, maybe we'll see. Now let's get to episode 21,
Odyssey of
Death.
You did that so weird.
I'll let you start the episode.
Well, we start off at the Bayou Bartholomew, where we see Madame Xanadu floating on a small boat, casting a spell. There's reflections of spirits in the water, but she doesn't seem to find one in particular. So she just literally, after struggling to get a signal, she just phones Zatanna and is like, "Hey, I wasn't successful." So we cut to Salem at the Tower of Fate, where Zatanna's like, "Yeah, thanks." So she's like, "What? I have another plan. But don't worry, I have another plan." And after she ends the call, Dr. Fate removes the helmet of fate, where Zatanna hugs her father and is like, "Have you had any luck getting Nabu to help?" And Zatara's like, "Nope, he refuses." And she's like, "Don't worry, I'm gonna be confident that he'll break down eventually." Then she dons the helmet because it's the agreement that they had.
Yep, it's her turn to don the helmet, and that is when we hit the intro.
Yep.
And we see ship is in subspace.
Yep,
with,
in subspace.
Legion and Flash.
Right, yeah. And of course, Chameleon Boy is just like, so what's the plan for getting the Phantom Zone projector? And Saturn Girl's just like, well, I mean, we have to make it up as we go along. But, I mean, we have to destroy it eventually. Whenever we get it. We have to destroy it completely.
Yep. And this is when we cut to the Mobius dimension. Mantis has completed his mission, and the Kaiser Thrall takes them back to where they were before, which is back on the base land. Metron brings the heroes into the Mobius dimension just a couple seconds too late. And Rocket can't believe that they don't have a tracker on this kind of stuff. Like, when you let them steal your shit and you don't have a tracker way to follow them? He's like, of course I do. He has that. I'm ready for that.
I anticipated this.
Yeah. Mantis is still on New Genesis, which he's shocked because they're supposed to travel back to Apocalypse or something like that. As Malafa'ak and Lore wake up, they realize that he successfully did the whole mission, and they're like, holy shit, wow, Mantis, we really underestimated you. And then Malafa'ak's like, well, not so fast, because he fucking broke the machine and now we're stuck here. He didn't compensate for some, tech jargon nonsense made up item, so now we're stuck at this planet again. And also we see that the projector is out of energy, but Mantis knows where they can get some power. We see Metron again arrive seconds too late to see that the abandoned time bubble is also stuck here in the present. In Supertown, the Foragers are still contemplating whether they're going to leave to live together or not. The female one says that she's willing to go to Earth for the male one, our main guy, but she's not sure. Once again, Metron pops up to explain what's going on, and he explains the device that they stole because no one knows what's going on besides him. He says that it is a Phantom Zone projector, and it is a zone for Kryptonian criminals. Inside the Phantom Zone, Zod tells Connor that you seem really strong, but again he whispers to, or it's either in his head or whispers back to Ursa again, like, okay, I guess we have to continue to slow play this one. He does seem very useful though. And now, back on New Genesis, everyone is up to date on what the hell is happening, even though it's a little bit confusing at this point. But they are all on guard, and they're going to get ready because the new guys are going to try to find the enemies. The Forever people start to make their giant mech. Orion gets on his flight harness. Everyone's kind of gearing up and ready to take on.
I'm sorry. What is their giant mech called?
What is it called? The Forever Man or something like that?
Infinity Man, yes. You
Infinity
must
Man,
always refer to the Forever people combining as Infinity Man.
Oh yeah, that big giant weird guy.
Fucking right. I still hate the fact that that's what it's called. But anyway,
what they're doing, they're all getting ready to guard the energy crystals because that's where they're trying to find all the energy sources that they could try to power the projector at. We see that, while they're all prepping, Lore and gang are charging the crystal at some sort of energy lake.
Right. I think it's called like Boiling Lake Crater, but there's at some kind of bubbling lake, and Mantis is like, ugh, how long? This is gonna take forever. Just so you know, this is gonna take a really long time. And of course, as he says that, the projector's like minimum charge. And it's like, ugh. But then, moments later, the Orion's boom tube opens in the sky nearby, and Rocket quickly sees that they have the right target.
And they find them, but also they realize that the lake is somehow affecting the mother box and not making it function as it should.
That's not important at all. Looks around.
No, of course not. Malafa'ak manages to knock the team back with his mind blasts as the Kaiser Thrall manages to trap the Flash. And is Light Ray there or no?
Tomar Ray is there.
No, the Light Ray.
Oh no, Light Ray is not there yet. But I know as that happens, Tomar Ray is able to recover and tries to hit him with
he's fighting Lore, and Lore is obviously overpowering him because he's a fucking Kryptonian.
However, Rocket tries to check in on Orion because of the coping. and I can't words. We did vocal exercises, and I still
he has a very difficult name. Ma'alafa'ak is very difficult.
Yeah, Ma'alafa'ak is just like psychic battle,
and yeah, he traps both of them in a psychic battle.
And then, like, as the Kaiser Thrall catches Flash in the thing, foragers are trying to are getting knocked back by Mantis. It's a fun time. It is all a fun time.
Yeah, the whole giant melee of everyone having their own fights, but the projector does manage to actually power up as Lord throws Tomar-Re away and says, "Lock on to General Zod." As we see the projector actually open up and the beam begins to like shoot out into the zone where Zod and Connor and them are. And then Nan takes the opportunity to try to jump and leap into the hole and escape, but it says not authorized target, so it shoots him back down.
Yep. Apparently, you have to
fight.
Yep. Sorry.
Yeah, or you have to be the specific person, or otherwise you cannot get out. That's just establishing that. But as they are, suddenly out of nowhere, a gigantic being begins to arise out of the planet, as this is a Promethean, and it has awoken. It begins to shoot a giant beam into the sky, a beam that looks exactly like the Apocalypse, like pyres or whatever, those weird things.
Yeah, right. I noticed that too. It looked very pyre, like, from Apocalypse.
Apocalypse, yeah. As the beam shoots into the sky and begins to destroy the New God planet, Tomar-Re says he will not fail another planet again, as he goes to try to put a vice around the beam and try to stifle it. As the Phantom Zone is being opened up, Zod is starting to be summoned as he begins to float out, but he won't leave Ursa, his wife, behind, as he's being like floated and dragged out. Connor says like, "Oh no, you're being dragged out. Let me stop you." And he kind of begins to pull General Zod back down. He's like, "No, you idiot, we're trying to escape." It's very funny of him, just like completely big character, like, "No, you fucking dummy.
Like, dude, what the hell?
This is a prison." Now, meanwhile, Forager manages to knock the Kaiser Thrall away from the Flash, freeing him. Rocket finally overcomes her prejudices against Orion in the psychic battle zone and frees him from Ma'alafa'ak as well. The other Forager, manages to beat Mantis, and the Flash starts to block the projector with a giant classic Flash tornado. Zod explains to Connor that they must escape. This is the most important thing, so they can free the rest of their people. The Foragers struggle against the Kaiser Thrall, which continues to shoot and blast and hurt them, as both the Foragers are trapped and they're kind of like being held down by it, but just in time as the female Forager's hand manages to escape the barrier. Lore then just straight up, I think does he punch through him, or does he use his laser eyes to kill Tomar-Re?
I think. I
can't remember how he killed Tomar-Re.
It was heat vision. It was laser eyes.
Heat vision? Yeah, that's the main thing that they use whenever they're in doubt. So yeah, he manages to shoot Tomar-Re just as he manages to stifle the Promethean's beam, as he realizes, and it says like, "Planet saved," as his ring flies off, and he's just like, "Yeah, I fucking did it. I was killed by Kryptonian," which is ironic, but I managed to save a planet, which I didn't do before. And the Green Lantern ring flies off and attaches to the female Forager, as she recites the famous oath, which I already did earlier in the episode. Go back to listen to it.
Right.
She begins to be powered up by the Green Lantern ring. Just as the bioship finally arrives and blasts the projector, does it destroy it?
It fires on the projector. I think yes, it is. Yes. Yeah, because as it gets destroyed, she actually does like detect Superboy and Connor and Phantom Girl, but as it's just the projector's destroyed, portal closes, and it's just like and Saturn Girl actually wakes up Phantom Girl. Like, she actually wakes up now.
Wake up, and she's like, "Oh, she's awake now," in the Phantom Zone. Just as that's happening, the Lore, pissed that he's lost his only way to save his father, just breaks into Bioship, grabs one of the Legions hostage. I think it's Saturn Girl, and says like, "Ma'alafa'ak, get us out of here, or I'm going to kill this hostage. We're done with this place." Just as they're doing that, the rest of the gang is mourning Tomar-Re having passed. But Metron appears again, and he's like, as we see like the montage of them, commiserating over what happened, Metron takes the time sphere and he's like, "I guess it's not a total loss. I got this weird thingy." He puts it in his Mobius Dimension collection. And then we see Kilowog and the rest are back with the treaty documents, and they are signing it to agree to help each other. We find out that Mantis has been captured. The Kaiser Thrall, like all other New Guy technology, is a sapient being. I'm assuming it's like Overlord or something like that.
Probably, yeah.
But they're going to, just like the mother and father boxes, they're going to take the Kaiser Thrall because it is a living being. The Foragers split up. Now that she is a Green Lantern, she has a lot of work to do, so she cannot go to Earth at this time. She has to go train and do all kinds of be a new recruit for the Green Lantern Corps.
But Forager, Forager does give Mountain Forager, the complete works of William Shakespeare, his favorite book, and of course,
what a dork.
Of course, Rocket making sure Orion is fine and everything. She's like, I'm glad I met you, kind of thing, and he's like, the feeling's mutual, and he's actually like, I'm confident that she'll meet her challenges, show strength in her challenges. And, thanks, like, legitimately, like, for the first time, like, it's like, hey, thanks for seeing me, kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. They finally make up, and the Earthers prepare to leave. Rocket thinks back on everything that's been happening to her. She thinks back on how she treated Orion. She thinks back on the conversation she had regarding her son. She thinks back on Viking telling her that she needs to realize that people are different and people need help and not to judge people. Just a whole long montage of all the lessons she should have learned over the course of this entire arc. And she says that when she's like getting ready to go back and deal with Amistad and the father as soon as they get back. Jay, we see, gets back home and he cannot find Bart anywhere.
And then meanwhile, in Salem at midnight, it's at the Tower of Fate, there's a gathering of very powerful magic users surrounding the Tower Bell. Madame Xanadu looks at Dr. Fate and is like, how's and is like, so how did Zatanna convince you to do this? And he's like, well, she did threaten to give me no peace until I complied. So they all join hands and, they start doing a ritual. Mystic energy builds up around them until the bell rings. And they look around confused and disappointed. Inside the Helmet of Fate, Zatanna asks Naboo, how they could have failed with so much power. Naboo is just like, Connor may have found final peace, but Zatanna suspects that he's not dead. She does not need magic to find him. She needs a detective. Dun dun dun.
Yeah. And that is where but then we get a little post scene of Forager reading Shakespeare. This time it's the female Forager, Green Lantern, reading the book of poetry. And that is where this arc ends.
Well, more specifically, I actually had to look this one up. Mountain Forager recites Hamlet's letter to Ophelia from Hamlet. Yeah.
So yeah, that is the end of this arc, the New Gods Supertown arc, and what a crazy ass arc it was.
I
wish we got to see more Green Lantern stuff, obviously, but I thought it was very interesting because this is probably the most I've seen of New Genesis since Superman TAS original series.
Right.
Yeah, I thought I'd love seeing all the Kryptonian stuff, even though it was just basically the only active Kryptonian was Lore, and he was getting his butt kicked a good amount of the time. Tomare got a little nice arc. Killing off a major character like that was really interesting. Killing off a Green Lantern.
Yeah, I was impressed that they actually did that, but at the same time, it's like, you know what, he deserved. He got the send off that he needed.
Yeah. But yeah, fun, cool, interesting arc with some space DC stuff. Something you don't really see very often, which I really appreciated. What were your favorite highlights of this arc?
Well, let's see. I did like, I don't know if I've said this with every single arc, so I'm going to state this now, hoping that I didn't. But every single arc has touched on a very heavy subject matter, and and once again, I like how they masterfully talked about it in a way that people can understand it, kind of thing. Also, I really liked seeing New Genesis and the Green Lanterns and like every and people from Earth like trying to get along kind of thing. At first it was awkward because New Genesis, welcome to our home, mortals.
Yeah.
Seeing Ma'alafa'ak with like working for Darkseid, just trying to get his means done. This seeing that it's trying to see that and seeing that it really didn't go so well because he has to do one last thing. But I've been avoiding it for now. Well, actually, also seeing my main Poozer, fucking Kilowog. Gotta give mad respects to that guy. But but you know what the main thing is. You know the one that I like the most. Seeing for the I have not seen the CG Green Lantern thing. So to me, this was I've heard it could happen before, but this was the first like visual representation I have seen of a lantern getting different rings at the same time. Seeing Razor ascend to a red and blue lantern. Dude.
Yeah, it's such a fun.
Yeah, I still cannot forget when that episode like first aired and you and I both watched it. We knew we were going to talk about this because we'd already gotten through the first 3 seasons of Young Justice, but you and I just could not hold back being like, oh my god, Razor, am I right? Holy shit.
Yeah. Oh god, that's so fucking cool. I am so fucking hyped.
But yeah, just and honestly, I have to give props because another thing that they like to do in Young Justice is give the spotlight to more or less some of the lesser kind of characters. So I was glad that Rocket was like the main hero in this that they focused on.
Yeah, I don't think she's been a main character since like season 1.
Yeah, right. But they did a fantastic job. She got to have her learning experience, and yes, it was quite a drag. I'm just glad that Gar's getting his life back together. Like, that's all I'm gonna say about it. They finally like touched base on like, yeah, you're going through some hard shit, and Gar's like, I know, help me.
Yeah, he finally actually asked for help because before there, the intervention didn't help enough. But sitting with a professional therapist like Black Canary, just actually sitting with him, talking through his problems, and like is actually helping him, start to develop what's happening, and also finally getting him to see into his head genuinely what he's feeling. Because like until this point, this whole season, we've not really been seeing his POV and why he's acting like this specifically. It's just like yeah, we've talked about all the death and all the loss he's been through, but the fact that he feels like he should have been able to do something about it. And
right.
Like, yeah, it's a very cool depiction of the character going through a lot of shit.
And honestly, and this is like the other only thing I'll say about the whole Gar arc in this is it was fun. Well, not fun. It was nice to see. God, this is a horrible way of phrasing. It was refreshing to see, like, actually find out that Gar is like, I feel responsible for all of this. Wait, but you couldn't control it. I don't care. It's my fault. I did it kind of thing. Because, I mean, granted, I did not get to the point where I needed professional help, which, by the way, anyone who has not found professional help and actually needs it, please do. It helps, from what I understand.
Yeah, it's very important.
But to a very, very, very minor extent, growing up, I had that at one point. I felt like I had to like be responsible for all of that. But fortunately, when I got to late high school, early college, I had a very supportive group of friends who were like, dude, you don't have to. There was nothing that could have happened in some certain cases, or some of them did not pertain to even me, but some of my other friends kind of thing. Yeah. So I chilled out about that. But yeah, it's just like...
It's an amazing to see things handled like really... You don't see like these kind of serious topics handled in any kind of like animation or live action stuff.
Yeah, right. And it was just refreshing to, have that kind of thing going on. So, yeah. So all in all, this was a really good arc, not gonna lie. Like,
Yeah,
I actually like when I first watched it, I didn't think much of it. I mean, and when I say that, I mean like before we even fathomed the recording these episodes, I was just like, okay, this is a thing. But then I actually got to rewatching it, and I'm just like, you know what? I like this one. I like this one a lot.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I really appreciated this arc. We are now, winding down to the end of Young Justice. We have one episode of Young Justice left, and then we got to move on to another series. But next we have more Metalocalypse coming up before then.
Yep.
Very funny batch of episodes to get to those. But
right.
A nice lighthearted change, even though it's like more edgy and dark. It's still it's funnier and it's more funny and like lighthearted, in a way.
Yeah, we got dark, edgy humor, satire compared to actually like dark, heavy topics that we've been talking on. You know what? In a way, I kind of rubbed off on you on this one because there's a lot of heavy topics and there's some dark fucking scenes in this show.
Hell yeah. Well, hey, I don't want to spoil what the show we're going to cover next because we're going to find out for 2 more episodes, but I hope you're ready for some fucking real heavy topics and serious tones and shit like that.
I already have an idea as to what that translates to just because of what you just said.
I bet you don't.
I sincerely doubt that, but then again, this is always what happens. I say I sincerely doubt that. I guess what it is, and you say, wrong, it was fill in the blank, something I had no idea even existed.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be something real weird.
I'm sure it will.
Well, anyway, before that, we have to do some little bit of plugs, and then we'll wrap up this one.
Matt,
great arc, yeah.
Matt, how about maybe you do some plugs because we all know how this goes at this point so far, and then one of these days,
get some plugs.
and then one of these days, it's gonna be like, yeah, okay, I'm not gonna even worry about your plugs, and I'm gonna be like, excuse me, I have plugs, but that is not this day.
Of course. Matthew Lewis podcasts. It's ML podcasts at Blue Sky. Check us out there. We're getting a good amount of followers because no one uses that other social media site anymore. No one's saying anyway. Matthew Lewis podcasts on Patreon. Matthew Lewis podcasts on YouTube. Matthew Lewis podcasts on Twitch. Check us out everywhere. Listen to old episodes of this show, Action Toon Bros. We have tons of backlogs. Movie Garbage, we have it's probably going to be in the middle of this series, our fucking incredibly long Monster Hunter episodes. And then, of course, listen to The Forgotten Minotaur King, go and buy my book. It's very important. Other projects still in the development. I have just not gotten around to working on anything else because work and this projects and everything like that. So other stuff is still in the wind. Follow us. We're going to cover more Metalocalypse. We have more shows coming up. But that's all for me right now.
Excellent. So yeah, this was a really good batch of episodes.
Yeah.
And we got we got to hear you nerd out about lanterns and everything like that.
Hell yeah!
And next time,
I hope that they announce a new Injustice game soon before or after this episode is released, and we got some more lanterns, just like we had with Sinestro in Injustice 1, and we had Atrocitus in Injustice 2.
Which means in the third one, we're gonna get Avarice. We're gonna get that one guy.
Oh my god! Yeah, Larfleeze. This goofy.
Yeah,
ass.
We're gonna get Larfleeze.
Or any of the Indigo Lantern tribe would be very fun. That'd be fucking fascinating.
Oh god, that would be interesting. Yeah. Well, anyway.
Or Crib. Crib would be great to have. Put Crib in.
Of course. Oh, fucking course.
She throws babies at people.
She throws babies at people. Yeah, that's a good selling point for your character.
Hey, that would get a lot of buys, I'm sure, as a DLC character.
Oh, probably.
All right, so we are signing off. From us and Movie Garbage to you.
Excuse me, from what?
Oh, too many podcasts, damn it. From us at Action Toon Bros to you.
Keep it sleazy.